Welcome back to Relation EQ. Today we have a very, I would say, tasty episode to delve into. I hope that this episode makes you hungry. We will be talking about the art of hospitality, which I also would call friendship through food.
Welcome to Relation EQ. Join Julie and her guests as they share their stories to provide powerful insight for fine-tuning relationships that matter to you. Now here's your host, Julie Sims.
Welcome to Relation EQ. I'm your host, Julie Sims, and today we are talking about the art of hospitality and the ability to gain or build friendships through food. And I have brought into the studio two of my best hostesses that I've ever met, and that would be Stephanie Nance and also our friend Susan Roberson. And so I've brought them in because they are gifted in hospitality, and it's something that they do often. It's something that they enjoy and are very, very passionate about. And it is something near and dear to my heart. And so we're going to dive in. So welcome, Stephanie.
Hi, how are you?
And
glad to be here.
Yeah, Susan.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm going to tell you, listeners, that I met Susan through crab dip. That, yes, she had a particular crab dip that her husband worked in conjunction with my husband, and so she would bring a Christmas gift by every year, and it was this crab dip. And I knew once I tasted it, I had to get to know this lady, and I had to find out her secret recipe. And then when I found out how simple it was, I was maybe a little disappointed, but it was easy, and I was all in. So that's how we developed our friendship. Stephanie also works with my husband, and through that, we have had many a dinner party either at our house or at her house. And so our families have just kind of all blended together, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
It is.
And so I'm going to ask you right off the bat, did you grow up with hospitality in your home, either one of you?
I did. My mom loved to entertain. She always did all of the parties at church and, all the different things. My dad was always calling at the last minute, bringing somebody home for dinner, and she could whip up an amazing meal, a beautiful table, and nothing flat. You'd think that she'd been planning on it for days. So that's just what we do.
Stephanie, what about you?
Well, at the holidays, both of my parents are from East Texas, and so we would always go back to East Texas for 2 weeks at Christmas. And Mom and all of her brothers and sisters, and my dad, he also had brothers and sisters, and everybody had their job. We had lots of meals, fabulous cooking. We would pack out a house with cousins and aunts and uncles, and hospitality was just, that was the holiday. It was great. We loved getting together, cooking. There was never enough room for all of us to eat at once, so the men would always eat first, and then they would go watch football, and then the ladies and the kids would then eat, and we could stay at the table longer. We'd get those men fed and out so that we could enjoy the afternoon at the table.
The gift of gab could go on.
Exactly.
Which is so important. I mean, that's part of what I love about what happens around a table in a home-cooked meal. And it doesn't have to be home-cooked, but it being in your home makes a difference. One of my personal pet peeves is to be at a restaurant and have a TV over someone's head. It is so distracting. And Brian and I had the chance to travel to Europe, and that was one of the things I noticed as we would go to the different countries was when you got a table, that table was yours for the night. They weren't rushing you to try and flip the table for the next customers. It was yours because they expected you to stay and linger and enjoy that meal. And that was just an eye-opener when I came back to the States and went, wow, we have so many distractions. And so it really spurred us to go on and to begin to entertain much more in our home instead of meeting people at restaurants. And I'm going to say that's been a game changer in so many of our relationships, because when someone comes into your home, that relationship will never be the same.
It's an experience.
It
It's
is
not
an experience.
just an evening, but it's an experience. It's something they'll remember, and I love that.
When you feel like real friends, right? You let me in your front door. So now we're friends. We're not just acquaintances. We're not just somebody. You can meet anybody for coffee or at a restaurant. But when I invite you into my home, it's a big deal. It makes a difference.
It's personal.
Right.
And they're getting clues about who I am. They see how I decorate, what colors I like, how, what do I surround myself with? And I think that, that is part of why it's so important to be willing to open up your home, because you're literally opening up yourself and saying, come on in.
Yep. We want you here.
Yes. Yes.
We want you to be a part.
And I think anymore people really appreciate an invitation into home, because it has kind of become a rarity. And I am notorious where someone comes in, they come in and they'll say, well, is there anything that I can help you with? And I will intentionally say, as a matter of fact, yes. Fill the water glasses with some ice, or, can you slice these few tomatoes for the salad? Because I want them to feel like they're now becoming family. Do you find yourself doing that same thing?
Absolutely. They're a part of the experience. You don't want them just standing to the side. Early on, when I was younger, I thought it was important that I do everything, that I didn't want my guests to have to do anything. But as time goes and the older I've gotten, it's more enjoyable for both parties when you have them help and jump in, and they enjoy that, where they're not just standing around. So
Yeah, I did the same thing at the beginning. No, I got it. But then you're not even enjoying their company if they're in the other room. And where does everybody like to gather?
The kitchen.
So if everybody's going to be standing around in the kitchen, they might as well be doing something, right? And many hands make light work besides all that. And so it's really fun to get everybody involved. And I used to, not want anybody in my kitchen if it was messy or whatever. And now it's, come on in, be part of it. And, if they want to help do the dishes after, they get to do that too, because it just really makes it much more comfortable and personal when they feel like they're included in your home.
As I have aged, I have gotten less starch in me. And I do not mind that there are dishes in the sink when people show up.
Right.
It's like, I've been cooking. I didn't get to finish all of it. It's not perfect. And I think that does help a lot of people feel at home. For you people who are OCD, I'm sorry. There are dishes in my sink. Look the other way if you can't handle it. But I just have learned that the more important thing is by far making your guest feel welcomed and them at ease. That the point of having them over should not be about you. It's about your getting to know them. Susan, you and I were talking about that the goal is to help make your guest feel as comfortable as you can. And so you're going to be thinking ahead of time, okay, my guest is more this type of personality. If they're a little more casual, then you're going to create a mood and an atmosphere that when they walk in, they're going to feel at home. That's
right.
Honestly the goal, is feel at home in my home. So do you want to talk a little more about how you do that?
Well, I used to love to, get out the fine china and set the pretty table, and it was fun. It is fun. It's fun to make the table look pretty, but when you have so many pieces of silverware and so many different types of dishes, and if people are not used to that, it really puts a damper on the atmosphere, because they're more worried about what fork they're going to use than the conversation that's going on, or how do I eat this, or whatever. So if we just create just a casual atmosphere, make yourself at home, get yourself a drink, whatever it is. Now I have people say, can I get that blanket, or, off the blanket ladder or whatever? Of course, make yourself at home. And people love that. And all of a sudden you see them shift into this peace where they might have been a little, I just don't know, how this is going to go. And as soon as you do that, a shift happens.
Absolutely. Yeah, I keep my beverages stocked in my refrigerator door to make them have to open my refrigerator. Because it's like, I can open your refrigerator? Yes. Like, by all means. and if something has fuzzy on it, then would you throw it out? I try to keep that out of there, but I
happens.
think even that little gesture is a sense of, welcome. And we're not too stuffy here. I think something that we did recently was we threw a pizza making party. Actually, we've done that a number of times. And so I will make up the dough, and then I'll have our guests bring all, the different toppings. And as soon as they get there, like we had some aprons, and they had, silly names on them, like cowboy names, because we live out in the country, and it was like Cookie and Skillet and, Pinto. And so it's like, here's your apron for the night. And so here are like 10 or 12 of us around our kitchen island. And it's like, here's your blob of dough, and here's a rolling pin, and begin to create. And just immediately the atmosphere was, this is so fun. And one guy, it immediately took him back to his high school job. He said, I used to work at a pizza place. This so reminds me of that. And he had never been on our home. We really didn't know he and his wife that well. But, our point was to get to know him. And immediately he was all in, had his apron on, and he was in. And so, by the...
Let me show you how to do this.
Exactly. He even tried tossing it in the air. That was a failed attempt, but but it was a good laugh. And so there again, inviting people feel more comfortable if they do bring something. The three of us, we all agreed that when we got into this, a little controlling, wanted to do it all ourselves because we wanted it done right, and we wanted it done our way, how we wanted it to be. And so I think as we've matured in this gifting, that we've gotten a lot looser, and sure, bring an appetizer, or bring a bottle of wine, or anything, bread, salad, whatever. And I think that one, it takes some pressure off of you. You don't have to do the whole thing, but it does help people feel like they're contributing. And I think that's also a good thing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about also one of the things that has made us successful as hostesses is our husbands. All three of us have husbands that also enjoy having people over. And it's like we're the planners and the schemers, and they are somehow willing.
Could be true.
Could be true. But they are willing to jump on board and help us put our vision into action. And so I just really want to commend our husbands on this, because we truly have men that come alongside of us, and we couldn't do what we do if they had bad attitudes, and who are you having over again, and we're spending all this money on food and all, and our husbands don't act like that at all. In fact, Susan, I think you told me that Paul gets kind of antsy if you haven't had people over in a while. Does he feel
he's
that?
like, if I'm cooking something, he's like, do you want to call so-and-so and see if they want to come eat? Do you want to? And I'm like, okay, yeah, we can. I wasn't planning on doing that, but that's fine. I love to have people over. But it's just, when we first got married, that was not how it was. But I immediately started with the parties. And I think the first thing I did, for his 23rd birthday, he had never really had a big birthday party. And so I threw a surprise party for him, first rattle out of the box. And it was 2 days before Christmas, so he thought I was getting everything ready for Christmas, and all these people show up. And after that, he was all about the party. So it was really fun. We love to have people over, and he'll get out there and, smoke ribs or brisket or whatever, cook steaks, do whatever it is I ask him to do. Or even if it's, would you run to the store and get ice? Would you go get the serving dish out of the cabinet? Would you, he just is all about it.
Yeah. I think, did you say he was smoking brisket even today?
He's smoking ribs tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Yeah. We'll be right over.
Come on over. The more the merrier.
So I think that our husbands and our families begin to see the benefit of, why do we do this? Why do we do that? And often after a meal, there'll be a follow-up of games. And there again, you're just getting to get to know the person and get to have some good times with them. And so often when the evening is over, they're just like, wow, just thank you so much for letting us come into your home and just be a part of what I just experienced. And so I think that's really cool. But, you two also don't just leave it at home. I'm going to have to squeal and rat out Miss Susan, because I found out that she travels with like cooking gear in her luggage. So what are some of the things that you have packed, and why would you throw like a fondue pot into your suitcase?
I do not own a fondue pot, but
If you did, I guarantee you it would go on a trip.
It would go.
It would go. So tell
Well,
me
if
some
we're
of your
going
travel
to,
adventures.
If we're going to a conference, if we're going anywhere that I know there's going to be a group of friends, I'm going to be ready to have a gathering, whether it's in the hotel lobby around a table. So I may have a little charcuterie board in my suitcase, and a few little serving utensils so that I can just run to the store and pick up the stuff to go on it. Maybe some cute napkins. Stephanie and I both really like napkins.
We love napkins. Yeah.
And one time Stephanie and I we were sharing a hotel room, and I'm unpacking, and I get out my hot water kettle and my milk frother, and she was like,
You have a milk frother?
A traveling milk
It was
frother?
great. I was like, man, I'm going to have my own latte in the morning.
that's
and not have
exactly
to pay
right.
for
That
it.
was what it was for. I have traveled when Evan was in basketball. I used to travel with a convection plate and electric skillet, and we would make breakfast burritos for all the kids in the morning before they went to basketball. I mean, I've made all kinds of stuff in hotel rooms.
People, I hope that you are getting some ideas of what you can do and how you can pack for your next trip at a soccer event or anything.
That is not if I'm going on a plane. I don't do that because options of clothes is more important. But
Okay, so not so much when you're flying. Okay,
Yeah,
good
yeah.
to know. Good to know. So Stephanie, any particular hosting stories that you would like to share about? Have you had some things that maybe didn't go right?
I have.
Tell us about that.
I was pregnant with my first child. I was 8 months pregnant, and I wanted to host the Sunday school Christmas party dinner. And so I had dinner for about 25, and Shane was so good to help me get everything ready, and he was, had done all of the grilling and come in, and he was helping to get the food on the table. And the last thing I needed to do was to pour up the green beans in a large glass bowl. And when I poured up the green beans and I picked up the bowl and I was walking into the dining room, the bottom just exploded out. The green beans went everywhere. Glass went everywhere. I burned my feet. It was just crazy. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, we have no green beans, but we have plenty of mashed potatoes and salad. And so we just carried on. But yeah, I was mortified in the beginning. But today, if that were to happen, it probably wouldn't bother me as much. You just move on. You see what you've got. If you have something in the refrigerator, you pull it out, and fix it up. But
Yeah, that's what I think years of experience has taught us three, is how to be much more easygoing. And I bet when you did your Sunday school class for 25, did you do it all yourself?
I did.
See?
I insisted.
Absolutely.
I insisted. I asked people to bring dessert. And so I had desserts from chocolate cake to a sleeve of Oreo cookies. That's what they had. That's what they brought. We were all newly married. And so, but I insisted upon doing the meal. But you learn through the years that it doesn't really matter. That is not going to define the evening if the green beans go everywhere. It's going to be a topic of conversation for a while, but
Maybe 10 years plus.
maybe people will still remember it. Remember those holes in your pantyhose from those burning through with the green beans? So, but
And you know what used to really bother me even is if they would bring something on a plastic plate or whatever, and I'm like, could we move this? I'm just going to move this over here on this pretty plate so that it matches my table.
Well,
And now I'm like, meh, throw it out there. It's good. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I would have to say that I probably would judge someone if they showed up with the sleeve of Oreos. I would be thinking, seriously, that's the best you could do. So, I've had to mature
She
from
has her
that.
limits.
Yeah, I do have expectations, but I think also learning, like you said, to be much more simple. One of the things that helped me was my oldest daughter, Jessica. She's Miss Practical, and boy, she carries the gift of hospitality as well. She really enjoys having people. But she gave me some sage advice, because somehow whenever we were going to have people over, I would begin to start to clean the farthest closet in the house, thinking I had to have the entire house ready. Company was coming. And she looked at me one day, she's probably about 15, and she said, "Mother, where are the people really going to be?" And she said, "Think about this." And I said, "Well, they'll be in the kitchen." "Right. Okay. And they'll probably be here in the living area." "Yes." "Okay. And they'll probably need to use a restroom." "Okay. That's 3 areas." She said, "Put your time and attention there. Get the one clean bathroom." I've never wanted anyone to die from being using a bathroom at my house. I do have my standards, but something so obvious was not obvious, because I was a perfectionist, and I wanted everything perfect. And I could go on a tirade with my children. "We've got to clean the whole house," and that was not inducing them to want to have people. And so that clarity that she brought to me honestly set me so free of, you're right. They're going to come straight here. They're not going to be wandering through my house, and, they're not going to be looking in closets. Don't worry about the kids' rooms. And so it was really refining to go, keep it much more simple. This is all you need. And I can't tell you how often that is exactly what has happened. They walk in, they go straight to your kitchen where things are being finished up. You eat at the table. They'll use a restroom, and you spend your time right there in that hub of your home. And so that really, really helps simplify. Now, I've had to give on a few other things. We're heading into the holiday season, and I'm like y'all. I love a beautiful table. I love dishes. I love the napkins. I love it. There's too much Southern living in all of three of us, wouldn't you say? Martha Stewart. But my kids asked, they said, "Mother, for at least Thanksgiving, could we eat on paper plates?" I had to think about that.
Did you have to pull the knife out?
I had to pull the turkey baster right out of my heart. I go, "What are you talking about?" But she said, "Mom, the point is for us to be together, not being in the kitchen doing all the dishes." And so here was my compromise. I bought cute Thanksgiving plates with the turkeys and the cute napkins. And so just a couple of years ago, I said, "Okay, I can do that." And they thanked me. They're like, "Thank you." But I told them, when it comes to Christmas and I'm going to serve, something nice, it will be the china. They said, "We can handle that." I said, "Okay, deal." So, there again, I had to respect the wishes of who were my guest. My family was my guest. And I was kind of plowing over them with my desire for it to be picture perfect, but it wasn't their desire to be in the kitchen doing all the dishes. And I've got to admit, Thanksgiving, you have a ton of pots and pans and dishes because of the meal, where Christmas can maybe be, I don't know, it tends to be a little bit simpler. And so that was an area that I had to give on. So do y'all have any thoughts about that? Have you had to?
Well, I know this year, with my schedule, my kids are coming home. They're only going to be there about 36 hours, not very long, Wednesday night to Friday morning. And with my work schedule, I just gave it up and I ordered Thanksgiving meal this year. I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's not what I wanted to do, but I don't want to spend the entire evening Wednesday night cooking or Thursday morning. I want to spend time with my kids since they're not going to be there very long. I'm not going to have them through the weekend. So I just decided to order it this year.
I think that is incredibly
I'm so
wise.
proud of you.
Now, I'm still struggling with, do I put it in my own containers and make the kids think that I cooked it?
They'll know. They've
They
eaten your
will.
cooking enough. They will know.
Truly, that is a wise decision, and one that your kids are going to appreciate because they've had your cooking before. They know what your meal tastes like. They know you're a great cook. You have nothing to prove to them. What you are proving to them is that they are more important than the food. And I think that really is a message that we need to keep in mind, is that our guests are our priority.
Yeah, that's the same thing we have going this weekend. Paul's brother, his family are coming. And first we were like, it's going to be our Thanksgiving. So I was planning this whole big meal, but they're only going to be here 36 hours. So I was like, what can I make ahead of time? So instead of turkey and all that, we're having ribs and brisket, and it'll all be ready by the time they get here. You know, all we have to do is heat it up, put it on the table, eat off paper plates, because they want to play games. They want to have fun, you know, and my kids are going to be there. We're going to have a ton of people, and I'm not going to be stuck in the kitchen.
I think that's awesome. I hope our listeners are hearing some freedom from three self-confessed homemakers anonymous. Perfectionist, that, you know, we are giving you permission to loosen up the reins. We are giving you permission to make it work to where you optimize your time with your family. This podcast is about relationships and building them and focusing on what's really important. And so I think that what we're giving our listeners right now is honestly permission and freedom to do exactly what you've done. If you need to order, you know, you only have 36 hours. And I think a lot of people fall into that category, realizing I have very limited time with those who are coming in town. Let's maximize this.
Yeah.
And so I really think that I hope that you hear the freedom in what we're telling you, is that it doesn't have to be picture perfect, ready to be in a magazine. The relationship is the essential thing. And that's what we're going to go after.
My goal is to have a great breakfast Thursday morning in our pajamas with the kids and take our time with the meal that we have to warm up before everyone else joins us. So, yeah.
And it'll be all good.
It will be.
It will be. Well, ladies, I think that we've given our listeners some wonderful tips and just some ideas of, you know, what is important and the essentials. And so we also we're going to wrap up here in just a moment, but before we do, we all three are cookbook people. We like the hands-on. Though Susan confesses that she's gone to online.
Well, when we moved into an RV for a while, for 2.5 years. So I had no room for cookbooks. So I do confess that I have boxes, multiple, of cookbooks that have not yet been unpacked. But that's why I had to go online, because I didn't have room. I didn't have room for cookbooks. They weigh too much in an RV.
So even there, if you don't have room, there's some freedom there. Go online and get your allrecipes.com. But we're going to wrap up, but we're going to share what our favorite cookbook is. So, Stephanie, you want to go first?
Well, one of my favorites is Tom Perini's Texas Cowboy Cooking. Simple recipes, great Southern recipes, great recipes for crowds. And so that's one of my favorites. And I would tell people that if you're entertaining for the first time and you haven't done that a lot, if you're not sure what to cook, I would tell you go with what you know. But if you want to try something new, the Pioneer Woman, you can't go wrong with her. She has step-by-step pictures, and that's very helpful so that you can see how your meal should look, how it should, boiling,
the end product,
and all what the end product should look like. So, and if you need, really, it's like advice. It shows you picture by picture.
And she's
step
super
by step.
practical.
She's very practical, and so it's easy to do.
She's not very calorie conscious, is she?
No.
She's gotten a little more so. She had some health stuff go on, so she got a little more
healthy.
So. But
okay.
So now she's got kind of options, I think, on both sides of the spectrum. So.
All right, Miss Susan, what did you bring for our
Stephanie
audience?
and I both love junior league cookbooks of all kinds.
Any junior league cookbook is good.
Every big city or mid to large city has a junior league, and every one of them produces a cookbook at some point along the way, and those women can cook. And so it's their personal recipes. Most of them have been tested by several people along the way, and I have never gone wrong. That's part of the problem with the boxes that I have. There's a lot of Junior League cookbooks in there.
They are tried and true, aren't they?
And Stephanie and I had the privilege of actually helping produce one time when we were in Junior League together. And so the one for Amarillo has recipes from Susan and Stephanie in it.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of my favorites. It is pretty dirty, which is a sign of a very used
Used
and beloved cookbook.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, mine is going to be Half-Baked Harvest by Tegan Gerard, and she is a young gal out of Colorado. She came from a large family, and she began to help cook. Apparently, her father was the one who did a fair amount of the cooking, and so she began to create recipes and also pair that with her love for photography. So the pictures are beautiful, and I'm all about beautiful pictures. If I have a recipe with no picture, I'm not very likely to try
make
it. No, I got to have a picture to go, like you said, this is what it should look like. And if I want to eat it, that's what you're going to be served. And I have loved this cookbook. Everything I have tried so far has been really easy, really pretty halfway healthy. I'm pretty health conscious. And so this is a favorite of mine. So, and she was
She
featured.
has recipes online too, doesn't she?
She does.
She
She
does.
has a fabulous Instagram page.
So
if you want to watch her as she cooks, and it's fantastic.
okay, so Tegan Gerard, she's my pick of the day. Well, ladies, thank you so much for coming into the studio today. It has been a pleasure to have both of you in. So I hope to have you back in. We'll talk more about how to host and how to build our friendships through food, because we just touched the surface, didn't we?
We did.
We did.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks
Thank
for
you for
having
having
us.
us.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Relation EQ. For more information on how you can fine-tune your relationships, visit our Facebook page at Relation EQ or email us at relationeq@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow our channel on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or hit subscribe on your favorite listening platform so you never miss an episode. Join us again next week for more stories on Relation EQ.